your phones out and your ring lights. We about to go live. Come on your phone screen, man, we going live.
Welcome back to another episode of the Ty Brady Way. Today I have the pleasure of interviewing Christine Wolf. And Christine, we've got to know each other over the years. It's probably been what? When did Sean start lacrosse?
6 years.
That's what I
is when we moved.
Yeah,
It's been
okay.
6 years.
So we got to know you a little bit then, and then our boys became friends, and then we just keep seeing on the same teams, and so we see a lot of each other through sports. And then, but man, what a fun 6 years. In fact, we mentioned that we're the championship tonight, so we're all excited about that. They're like, let's go get it, right? These boys deserve it. Well, so you're, as you know, this show is about interviewing successful entrepreneurs in their space and independent business owners and basically their journey and ups and downs. So you started, we'll get there in a minute, but you started, it's been about a year with insurance with me?
Yes.
So you started insurance about a year ago. But before that, let's kind of unwind a little bit. You were in a corporate sales environment, but let's even go back before that. So you've kind of worked in different avenues and you've picked up stuff along the way. And what are some of the, I think you mentioned you did life coaching.
I did.
You've done real estate. You've done corporate sales. And now you're like, hey, I'm going to do this on my own, right? You're going to build something for yourself, right? And that's what you and I talked about. So when going and getting a job or a job, what started you down the path of even life coaching? Because there's a lot of similarities in a lot of all those aspects that you did.
Absolutely. The life coachings came from real estate. I started in real estate. I wanted to learn as much as I could, as fast as I could. And so I volunteered on a lot of the governmental affairs committees, the Board of Ethics, or the Code of Ethics, the Board of Realtors. A lot of that was a volunteer process, which led me into doing some coaching with companies like Franklin, back then it was Franklin Covey, which kind of led me to a company called the Impact Trainings. And I started there actually just kind of volunteering, stepping in where I could. I did a lot with their teen training program, which was a inspirational, motivational, kind of powerful training to get teens headed in a strong direction to take on and live their best life and, go for it. And that kind of evolved into doing a couple of the adult trainings for them. Absolutely passionate about it. All of the work that I've done has been about people. I just love people. So when I'm providing a service or showing up in a way that is connecting me with people, I thrive.
Yeah. You talk about service. How have you seen that in the insurance environment?
Oh, it's huge. I get teary-eyed even thinking about it. Just because Medicare, for example, is so confusing.
Yes.
There's so many people. And it changes every year. So being able to sit down with seniors that aren't super technology friendly, I'm not, but we wind our way through it. I have huge resources. You, Craig, Brady Insurance Marketing are always there to support me. And when I sit down with these people and show them a clear path to the services and the tools that they need and deserve, it's the most rewarding experience.
How many times in my career, and I've heard people are like, why aren't people told about these things? Have you got that in your?
Oh yeah. How come I didn't know about this?
Yeah.
Why didn't somebody tell me sooner? I wish I would have known about this before my husband passed away.
Yes.
Like, it's that part is just crushing. It's like, how come you didn't know about this? So even if I end up just being an information resource for them, it makes my day.
I remember helping a lady. She was at the front desk of an office. I can't remember exactly what she was. It was the front desk, and I was actually there to see her boss, and I had an appointment with him. And I got talking. She's like, "Oh, what are you here for?" I was like, "I'm here to help your boss. It sounds like he's needs some help with some insurance." She's like, "What kind of insurance?" I said, "I think he's getting ready to age in Medicare." And she's like, "Well, I'm on Medicare." And I said, "Oh, really?" And she's like, "Yeah, my husband passed away, and it's been 20 some odd years." And she's telling me this whole story. And she's like, but I don't know what to do and blah, blah. And she's telling me this whole story. And I came back and I said, did you ever look into widow benefits? And she's like, what is that? And I said, well, if your husband passed away, you're entitled to, back then, his Social Security for widow benefits. And she's like, well, no one ever told me that. I said, well, I said, I can't help you with this. I can just tell you where you need to go. Because there's sometimes when we talk to people, we can't help them. Like we could tell them where to go, but because of HIPAA and requirements, we just can't do it for them. And I said, well, go talk to Social Security. I got a call about 4 to 6 weeks later, and she said, was in tears. And she's like, Ty, I am so grateful for you. And she starts telling me the story. She's like, well, I went down to the local Social Security office, and I said, but I actually wrote down questions to ask the Social Security. And I said, are you entitled to this? Are you entitled to this? Are you entitled to this? Or whatever. And she came back and she's like, Ty, everything you said I should have been getting, they gave me. They back paid her for 20 years
Wow.
of not receiving benefits. And she's like, my house was in foreclosure. And they had an 18-year-old daughter. So they got the survivor benefit and I can't remember the term, but there would have been the widow benefit and the kid benefit, whatever. Anyway, but they paid all that back to her. And she's like, I can actually live, because she was also on Medicare when I talked to her, but she was working because she couldn't pay the bills.
Right.
And just that simple conversation. And I mean, not all of them are like that, but it's just the fact that you're able to help, and you're like, now she's thriving and living, and it's been years ago.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you go in at the service mindset. You're helping people. You do this coaching, and then you take a job with corporate America.
Right.
In a corporate job.
Right.
How long was that?
That was about roughly 3 years, I believe. Not long. Because I went from being an independent contractor to having a job, and originally was going to be like a 9 to 5. Ended up being a lot more than that, which was awesome, other than not having flexibility and freedom to. I'm also a full-time mom. I have kids in the military. I have a firefighter. I have a grandbaby. So attempting to juggle all that while being everything to a corporate company, it was a lot to balance.
Yes.
It was a lot.
And so then I'm going to ask this question. Sometimes it's a force out, meaning corporate America says, sorry, you're done. Or sometimes it's a choice. And I think if I remember right, they said, sorry, Christine, you're done.
Yeah.
That happened to me.
They did. I hit the glass ceiling. I hit their glass ceiling. And rather than, I went to them and said, I didn't realize I was going to be as successful at this either. And I'm open to, it sounds to me like what you're asking is for me to be less successful. I'm open to that. Just tell me where you want me to stop and I'll stop.
Yeah.
The challenge is that's not who I am.
Yes.
That's not my nature. That's not my personality.
You're not going to pump the brakes.
Right. And when a customer wants or needs something, that's my priority, is taking care of the customer, not taking care of the shareholders, so to speak. And that just didn't go over so well.
Well, didn't you tell me at one point that some of the salespeople were jealous or envy, or basically said, you're making more than the people that are running the company?
Yes.
And there was a little bit of envy and jealousy, and so that's sad.
Yeah.
Because,
it turned into literally adult bullying. It turned into an adult bullying situation.
In a corporate environment?
In a corporate environment.
Shocker. That never happens, right? So you get forced out, and then, you're like, hey, we've been talking for a little while before you came on board, but it took you a little while to come on board just because, you got to figure out the hours just for you, and did you even want to do it, right?
No, it literally was one of your podcasts.
Oh, was it?
That I watched.
Okay.
Yeah, that's when I reached out. I remember, frankly, kind of going back a little interpersonal side story is, in my family, I'm a military brat.
Mm-hmm.
In our family, you be your best, you show up your best, you give it everything you've got, you show up early, you stay late, you exceed every expectation. And one of the cardinal rules was you do not get fired. And
Hmm.
so when they canned me, it took me out at my knees. Like, I went into a deep depression. I went into a what went wrong? How could this happen? I've given this blood,
Your soul.
sweat, and
Yeah.
tears.
Yeah.
Like, how does this happen? So I went through a journey of pulling myself out of a deep, dark hole and saying, you know what? It's time for you to put on your big girl panties.
Hmm.
And, or as my mom would say, pull up your bootstraps and start marching.
Yeah.
Um, that day, I remember I was sitting on my patio watching the sunrise, and I was like, you know what? There is something out there for me that is the best of all of this. And your podcast came on.
Oof.
And I don't remember exactly who was on your podcast, but they had a similar message.
Yeah.
And I said, you know what? Ty's talked to me about this and mentioned, hey, have you looked into this? And then your podcast came on. I'm like, I'm pretty sure the universe is telling me to reach out to Ty. And I did. And these are tears of joy because I'm so glad I listened. I am so grateful that I listened.
Yeah. And I keep telling them, we got to get you up there. We'll keep going,
Yeah,
keep grinding,
absolutely.
keep going, and So what has been, as a new agent, because there may be new agents listening to this, or people that may look and they want to get in the industry. What have been some of the challenges from your perspective, like that first year, like from your perspective?
The big thing is not getting overwhelmed by how much there is to learn. Like, that was a real challenge for me.
Yeah.
I like to think I'm a very intelligent person. I'm very outgoing. A lot of it was foreign to me,
Sure.
the language.
Yeah.
And so then I felt like, well, they mentioned this and I don't know what that is. I need to learn this. And next thing I knew, I was like, I need to go to a university to learn all this. And you and Craig have both said, breathe, girlfriend, breathe,
Yeah.
slow
Yeah.
down, take it one step at a time and just keep walking. Um, and it took me a while to I got my own way.
Yeah. Everyone finds it. Yes.
I got my own way and just studied, and didn't move forward. I put my nose in a book and in the computer screen and did class after class after class and was retaining not very much of it because I was just over. It was like trying to drink out of a fire hydrant.
Yeah.
You just can't.
You're not going to retain it.
Yeah.
And that's why Craig and I have met. When we mentor, we're like, just let's focus on 3 products. Let's get really good at those 3. Just focus on getting an appointment, and then the presentation, and then we'll keep building, because I don't want to overwhelm people. But my goal is to get them from A to B, and I want them to see a paycheck. I want them to see that they can do this, because what happens is you don't remember walking. But how many times did you fail before you actually started walking, and then running, and so on? It just takes line upon line and building it. And you're not the only one. I'm just going to say that we've had to be like, just take it back, do this first. And then, I don't know, was it 4 weeks ago you went out and did it all on yourself? And I'm like, yes.
Yeah. And
that's like the touchdown in sports, baby.
That's what it took. It took just going to the appointment and not being afraid to fail.
No. And those people are so grateful. They had no idea what they even had an option to do.
Right. And they were in a pretty significant hard place.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily need to go into detail, but yeah, the sun rose for them after we got all of this figured out.
Yes. So you would, just to restate, you would tell anybody getting is just don't overwhelm yourself. Just take a little bit at a time. Saying said is, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time, right?
Exactly.
And then just keep going. And obviously, I think you also had a background of 3 years of corporate sales. So I'm sure you knew the ins and outs. But again, you didn't know anything about what you were selling in the beginning, right? But over time, you became the top notch.
Right.
Wow. So you're on this journey to build your own thing, to do your own thing. You talked about, that this is where you've been, and kind of like, hey, don't overwhelm yourself. To this point, what has been the most rewarding thing?
Like I said, just getting with people and assisting them to overcome where they didn't see a way.
Yeah.
assisting to clear a path and say, you know what, you can go to the doctor.
Yeah.
You can get your medication.
Yeah.
You can afford food. Like, we're going to make this happen. We have one gentleman that I met that lives down in Clinton. Um, Ironically, the week that I met with him, he was attempting to clean his own gutters and fell and broke his leg.
Oh no.
And so he was in the middle of getting care while we were working on getting him signed up for Medicare. I was able to do an outreach to a community down there and went and got his gutters cleaned, his yard cleaned up.
Oh.
So the vision I've got is not only am I going to assist these people in getting Medicare, I'm going to assist them in getting yard work services,
Yeah.
in getting snow removal, in getting a community, because like him, he has nobody. His neighbors don't even know him. He doesn't leave the house. Now he's out, he's in his community. They've continued to go back and check on him. And so building this community where it is about assisting them to get their needs met.
Thriving.
Absolutely.
And then giving back, right?
Yep.
Wow. So when you were in one of your coaching or even in corporate sales or one of those environments, what was like a struggle that you dealt with? I mean, you talked about, getting fired because they thought, hey, you're a top performer and we got to push you out. But during that process, what was a struggle?
Again, the biggest struggle, and I would say this to a new agent too, is getting myself out of my own way, staying out of my head, trusting the process, and listening, getting out of my own way.
When did that come to a realization for you? I mean, just like when you're like, hey, what happened? Because our mind plays mental stuff on us all the time.
You know what? It does, and I still am conscious that that's the reality. But it's really about letting go and resetting every day. That has been probably the biggest thing, is staying on point with what matters most and my whys. And you were the one who brought to light, what is your why?
Yeah.
So when I'm in my head, when I'm in my own way, when I'm pumping the brakes because I'm of fear, focusing on my why. Why am I doing this? Why? I reset it every morning. Why am I doing this today?
Yeah.
This is why I'm doing it. I'm doing it for my health and wellness, for my family, for my friends, for the community.
Yeah. How important is it to have, how do you say this? Your champions or your mentors or people in your corner?
Huge. It's huge. And, more importantly, it was letting go. I talked a lot about that corporate environment, kind of having a target because I was doing so good. And rather than have people that were the wind beneath my wings, they were what I call the Mexican crabs. They were pulling me back into the bucket, trying to bring me down. And so not only is it important to look and build a relationship with the people that end up being the wind beneath your wings, but building relationships with people that role models for me. You're one of my huge role models.
Oh, thank you.
You see the best in people, you empower, you inspire. I have never seen you do something for you. I know you get a lot of benefit out of it, but what you do is for everyone around you, and that's huge.
Yeah.
So having those people there, like the people that I spend my time with, that I actually put my energy into, that are the people that I want to be like when I grow up.
Well, you're gonna keep growing up. That's great.
And most importantly, being willing to, like I said, relationships are my number one possession in life that I value, are the relationships with people, and learning that, there's some people I have to let go.
Yes. Or you're not going to give as much energy to, right?
Right.
And it's unfortunate because I relate that to, I got to be the lighthouse, not the tugboat. And there was a time that I'm like, I think I should be tugging people to get in this industry because of the impact it's made in my life, the impact it's made in so many other people's lives. And so I'm like, I just got to be the lighthouse. I got to show them where the beacon is. And if they choose to navigate through rough waters, that's on them. If they choose to take an easier path, that's on them. because I can't do it for them. I
Right.
want to, because I want everybody to have financial freedom and free time and, be able to do what they want when they want and serve. But it's like, you just, and that was hard for me. And the other thing too is that, for me, the legacy, I want everyone to live the legacy or the lifestyle they want, and I'm just there to help them the best I can. I just can't do it for them.
Right.
And if they're willing to plug into systems and strategies and all those things, that's on them, right?
Right.
So I want to take a moment and talk about coaching. So you talked about coaching because there's so many similarities in, having a business and coaching. When you were coaching, maybe you said teens. I heard that earlier.
Yeah, that was
So
my primary focus was teens.
and there's a big, we can go into days about, just the mental crisis with teens these days. And I'm like, they just got a lot thrown at them. And we have to keep on point. And the conversations that I'm having with my kids, I'm like, I'm really having this conversation with my kids. But, and it's just to protect them. And I said, listen, I don't want to that's my job as dad, protect you. And I can't prevent you from making dumb mistakes, but I'm here if you do. Right. So you're like, but when you were coaching, what was your primary objective in coaching? I mean, us is to help and serve seniors right now, but in coaching in general.
Coaching in general was bottom line to support people in being able to touch, move, and inspire within themselves.
Yeah.
This world, especially these young kids, like you said, they're looking for other people to do it for them. Um, and a lot of that has to do with they don't have the internal confidence to trust their inner compass.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's saying, you know what, you are enough,
Yes.
you matter, you've got everything it takes within you. And again, you just got to lean into that. And the number one thing was building their confidence and letting them know they are enough. It's amazing in this society, like you had mentioned, the issues that teens are dealing with half the time are issues that I didn't deal with until I was an adult, and they're getting hit with it in elementary school.
Yeah.
And how many families are going in so many directions just to provide and put food on the table that a lot of these kids aren't getting the support they need because mom and dad are working 2-3 jobs just to make ends meet.
Yeah.
And so yeah, when you're isolated and alone, your self-confidence begins to waver.
Yeah.
So letting them know you're not alone, you have a community, and as an adult, I'm still leaning into that, realizing you're not alone.
Well, I was going to say that, and I mean, even as successful as people are, even your professional athletes have coaches.
They do.
They have
And
somebody.
a team.
That's right, exactly. So whether you're on an actual team, like there's a team in your corner. There's champions that want to see you succeed and win. And you mentioned let the ones that may be dragging you down, as hard as it is, be like, you can still stay in touch with them. I'm not saying cut off. Some people are like, I need to cut off the relationship completely. I'm like, just don't engage as much. Right? Let them, you got to go do your thing. But you know what happens over time? Those people that may have been pulling you down in that bucket, they see a change in you. And they're like, what is Christine doing?
Yeah.
And then they come reaching out, right?
Right.
And then they're like, what's going on? Right? And that's the benefit.
And my door's always open.
Yes.
Even when I realized there were some things that were done or said, it's on both sides where the purpose of life is to learn.
Yeah.
So I've learned a lot through that entire journey. And the people that maybe I'm not as close with have learned a lot too. Yeah. And when our paths cross again, my door's open.
Yeah. You do have to let that go. I've read the book with Mel Robbins about Let It Go. And she's like, ask yourself, what did you do or could have done? Because she talks about, being the outcast of a group of friends and wasn't getting invited to all the things. Yeah. But she's like, well, did I reach out? Did I put myself out there? Right. Or was I the one, And there's times where I think it's a little bit of both, right? And then when you reach out, it's like, it is what it is. It's like, I don't think most people are out there to be like, how can I harm somebody today?
Right.
Right. Most people are genuinely want to help and give back.
Absolutely.
So you're on this journey to be your own autonomy with everything. When it comes to like a daily schedule, how hard is it? Because that's where I sit down. I'm like, okay, you have to have a plan. Like, is it 9 to 5? Is it Saturdays, Sundays? how hard is that when because you're by yourself, but not by yourself. But I'm not calling you saying, Christine, did you make your calls today?
Yeah.
Christine, did you go to your appointment today?
Right.
I mean, I love to hear about it, but I'm like, there has to be, like, kind of like your kids. You do the dishes and then you go double check later, right? But it isn't like I'm going to do your dishes, make your bed, those things.
Right.
How hard has that been?
That part hasn't been that challenging because
Okay.
looking back, again, I'm a military brat.
So the structure.
So yeah, I've always been very structured. Luckily, I had that support system from my family and learned that at a very early age. The biggest thing is holding myself accountable when I don't stick to the schedule and saying, okay, so that didn't work out. And again, I reset every day.
Yeah.
Okay, so yesterday was yesterday, it's gone.
Yeah.
So today's going to look different. How are you going to make it look different? So sticking to the schedule, and always, I have this funny thing that I do where I look at some of the things I want to achieve in a day, and I take the scariest one and get it done first. Because once that one's out of the way,
the rest are easy.
I'm good to go.
Wow. So you'll pick the hardest task and be like, okay, so if it's like, I got to mow the lawn today and I hate mowing the lawn, I'm going to mow the lawn at 6 a.m.
Exactly. Yep.
Get it done.
I do. And adjusting my reality to, again, I'm not a 9 to 5 kind of person. I usually get up between 4 and 4:30.
Wow.
And the first thing I do is an affirmation, a meditation. I hit the treadmill. It's like you're doing a mile. If you can get 2 in, great. But at least a mile right now at 4:30 in the morning.
You're up
My
and early.
husband, yeah, I am. My husband finally moved the treadmill to the far north side 40 of the house because he got tired of hearing the thump, 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 thump from me at 4:30 in the morning on the treadmill. But I did point out to him, at least it's not the vacuum.
Yes.
It used to be the vacuum.
Do the treadmill. I'd rather not the vacuum.
So getting physical activity in is something that because I let that go when I was in my depression. I shut down, stopped taking care of myself physically, gained a ton of weight, started depression eating, oversleeping. And the only thing that snapped me out of that was, okay, you're going to make your physical wellness a priority.
There you go.
So I do that very first thing in the morning to get the blood flowing. And then I look at the work to-do list and tackle the scariest thing or the hardest thing first.
I hadn't heard that before, but that's amazing to do the hardest thing because they're like a lot of people procrastinate and put that off because they're like, but you get it done, the rest is easy.
Yeah.
So everybody has trauma and stuff, and you look at social media, you look at YouTube reels. A lot of people don't tell you the stuff, right? But I appreciate being vulnerable, by the way, and the audience will love it because they're like, oh, everybody has a moment, and whether they don't want to do it, right? But my thing is I may not want to do it, but I'm gonna do it anyway. And then oftentimes I'm like, okay, now I know why I was supposed to do that, and I don't see it in the moment. Or my kid's like, Dad, can you take me here? And I'm like, I just sat down. I don't want to do it, but I do it anyway. And it ends up being something greater than I even thought or imagined it would be.
Right. Right. And like you said, it's challenging because I'm a very passionate and, as you're aware, emotional person. Not being afraid to let people see those emotions.
Yeah. I got 2 different boys. I got a boy that when crap hits the fan, he shuts down. Like he just looks at you like the look of death. And then my other boy, I look at him and it's just tears. And I'll ask him, what's going on? He's like, I don't even know, Dad. I just, and like when he gets frustrated, he's losing. That's just where he goes. And my other kid just blank stare. And my other kid, I'm like, I need you to talk to me. I need you to work through this a little bit, But my other boy, at least he knows, I don't know, but I just need a minute. I said, well, go take 15, but don't let it hang up you all day. Go take 15, get your head right, whether I get after him for not doing the dishes or making the bed or whatever, but it's like, no, just go reset.
Yeah.
And sometimes people let that carry them for ever and ever and ever, which brings me to another point is my wife's like, it's good to reflect on the past, but not dwell on the past. So, things that I've learned, I'm like, okay, I remember this, but I'm not dwelling on it to a point where it cripples you or that fear that comes in like, oh, last time I did this, I got all black and blue. Or last time I did this, I got my teeth kicked in.
Right, it hurt.
Yeah. You got to just move forward.
Yeah.
And
But with that being said, I will tell you, like I said, getting fired was a huge traumatizing experience for me, and I did let it paralyze me. If there's one thing I could go back and change, it would be getting myself out of that space way sooner than I did.
yeah.
But I learned a lot. Um, and where I was going with that is, I learned through that fear is, and Sean taught me this. Fear is just excitement waiting to happen. It was a quote he said to me one day when we were getting ready to go on a roller coaster at Lagoon. I said, "Are you scared?" He said, "Yeah, I'm terrified, Mom." It's his first time he's ever been on a roller coaster. And I was like, "You're sure you're ready for this?" He's like, "Absolutely, I'm going to do it." So he gets on the roller coaster. We're getting off the roller coaster. He's like, "Mom, you know what I just realized?" I'm like, "What?" He's like, "Fear is just excitement waiting to happen."
The sticks with you.
Yeah.
That's going to go on a little real. I guarantee you on the social media, because that is so true. How many times in life, it reminds me about on the roller coaster. I think when I went on a roller coaster for the first time, I was in tears. But then after it, I'm like, that was nothing. I want to do it again and again and again. Excitement waiting to happen. That's awesome.
And I've learned that with my emotions, it's just energy that I've been hanging on to that gets to be released. So let it go and move forward.
Yeah, that's great. While we're running out of time as usual, what are some last thoughts you'd like to leave with the audience, or maybe just a last impression as we've talked, like, hey, this is what's interesting. I talk to people and they're like, I should have said this. I'm like, and some of the conversations I have after the show, they're like even better, but I'm like, you know what? That just means I gotta have back on. But any last thoughts, impressions that the audience?
You know what? If you're looking at being in charge, being the captain of your own ship, look at this. And again, don't get overwhelmed by the amount of learning, because the good news is I have stuff to do tomorrow and the next day and next week. I stopped looking at it as a reason to not move forward, as to this is absolutely a huge reason why I get to move forward. This is so exciting that I have all these avenues and all these possibilities. And like you said, it's up to me, so I get to be accountable for it. I get to be the one that says I'm responsible for the schedule, and I can choose to do it or not do it. But why am I doing it?
Yeah.
Because every time I look at the why, this is why you're doing it, and this is why you get to.
Yeah.
And it becomes the whole reason why it's easy. And get out of your own way. Just get out of your way and go for it.
I've seen just what you've done in a short period of time in a year. You've had people approach you and be like, hey, what are you doing? I want to do this, right? And I think that's one of the greatest accomplishments you can see as an individual. Is you made some decisions. You were in a dark place and you said, I'm going to work through this. And now people are watching and seeing what you're bringing to the table.
Yeah.
Whether you're talking about it or not, they've seen a change.
Oh, yeah. My energy is night and day. Yeah, the impact that you're going to make in their lives and their future families' lives. And, I got a landscape buddy. He got in the industry, 6 years ago? But before then, he was doing landscaping. And he's like, I should have done this sooner. And I'm like, but he watched me. He landscaped 4 of my 5 houses. And he's like, what are you doing? Right? So. Don't wait. Just go for it. Just go for it. Jump in. Anything else? No, but thank you. Other than, a huge thank you. Again, you're one of my huge role models. I want to be like you when I grow up. Keep going. I'll get you there. I'll do my best. And I'm happy if anyone has any questions, feel free to reach out to me, because absolutely you deserve this. You deserve your best life.